But John, we're bringing on a guest tonight. He's never been on our show before. I first heard of, I didn't know he had done this, but I saw that this guy in Southern California was complaining about a plane flying overhead trailing a banner saying "Impeach Obama." And I said, wow, that's pretty good. And this guy was so incensed that his glorious president was being insulted like this. I go, what kind of scumbag is this? Well, he's an elitist, a 1%er living on Coronado Island, and you know, he doesn't want his apple cart upset. But that's the first time. So I found out who it was, and I wanted to have him on the show. I've done a little research into him. He's quite a controversial character in Southern California. I want to try to get to the bottom of it, but he also, I found out, is really interested in Black nationalism. I first became aware of, I think, Black nationalism when I was living in Washington, D.C., working in D.C. I attended the Million Man March, and there was Farrakhan up there saying that the white race was a evil experiment gone wrong, and then we should all be destroyed. You know, and he gets away with it. Also, I had put on a concert on the mall there, and Black nationalists tried to crash it. They were going to come in through the back, and I said, no, you're not my security, you'll stop you. And they said, well, you're a racist. I said, look up on the stage. What color is that guy talking right now? He was black. And so I had to have the Capitol Police take him away. But, you know, enough of this crap dividing everybody, man. I'm tired of it. I'm tired of being called a honky or a cracker, or also gringo, dumb gringos. I'm tired of it. You know, stop this nonsense. Yeah, and black people are tired of being called names too. So, you know, get over it. Stop. We're killing each other. But I want to bring on this gentleman, and besides, I've got a couple of guests on the show that are experts. They're going to be listening to my guest, and they're going to comment on some of the things that he's saying. A couple of things is that Obama is Black nationalist. He's also really concerned about references to Obama being the Messiah, and he's a political campaign like a third world country, and that's exactly what they want to do to this country. Hysteria of his fans. It goes on and on and on. But we're going to bring on Roger Ogden right now and find out why he's such a controversial person. Roger, good evening.
Good evening, John. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate the opportunity. As you say, I've been a little bit controversial.
Well, not a little bit, a little more. I mean, there are people that are upset at me for even having me on the show. I can imagine
that. I was wondering if you'd really have me on tonight.
Yeah, no, I don't care what these people say. I have nobody to kowtow to. My main concern is this country. And if anybody has any other agenda than that, don't come on the show. You won't be on the show.
Yeah. Well, I think you're right. There's too much polarization, and also people do not tolerate criticism enough, really. I think if you can't criticize yourself, your own movement, really, if you can't say anything critical, then I don't think you can come forward. You can go forward from that.
Roger, I noticed that this idiot on Coronado Island was trying to get the pilot certificate number. I'm a pilot, by the way, and I wouldn't give anybody my certificate number.
You know he's a Republican.
Oh, he is a Republican?
He's a Republican, yeah. Jerry Toshi.
Right.
Ted, the guy that did the ad for me, talked to him, and he said he's not really such a bad guy. But I guess he's getting pressured by the homeowners in Coronado.
Yeah, but he called him his glorious president or something to that effect. I mean...
yeah, he said something like that. And we need to verify the person's responsible as well as the pilot's name and certificate number. He's trying to intimidate. He was trying to intimidate. So I posted his letter on my website, and I think he got a lot of calls. And,
yeah, well, I was one of them. I was one of call him.
Well, Ted told me that I should call him up. He's not such a bad guy, and I should ask him for a donation for the next flight.
Yeah, that would be a good idea. In fact, you're planning on trying to get a banner to fly over the Rose Bowl. Is that correct?
That's right. Yeah. He wouldn't answer his phone, so I couldn't get in touch with him. But that would be the next thing we would like to do, because there's supposed to be more than 1 million people there, and there's going to be international press and foreign visitors, and it's a good opportunity, I think, to get our message out to a lot of people.
Yeah, Roger, I read on somebody's website that you don't like black people, and I know the person's website. I mean, he defamed a friend of mine who he lied about, and other people. But I'm just, you know, you don't sound like somebody that hates black people just because you're against black nationalists. Am I
No,
correct?
I don't hate black people. I think people all should be treated the same way. And, you know, really, the government doesn't treat us the same way. I think the government should be colorblind. And really, they're not now. I'm not doing this because I don't like blacks, that I hate blacks. I'm doing it because I think it's shocking what his religious background is. And, you know, when did that become acceptable? It's, I can go into more detail later, or I can do it now, but...
Well, let's go in, you know, we want to talk about, you say that Obama is a black nationalist. And there was somebody out in California that was called a black nationalist, and we're going to get into it. I have somebody that knows that gentleman. It's going to respond, and we're going to try to get to the bottom of it and find out what's...
Okay, all right, that'll be good. Are you going to say
right
his
now,
name? Or?
Yeah, right now I want to bring on Leroy Marshall. Leroy is a member, well, he's practically running it right now, Blacks for Equal Rights Coalition in Southern California, and he's really kind of an authority on black nationalism. So, Leroy, good evening.
Good evening. Can you hear me, John?
Yes, go ahead. Now, you've heard Roger say that he feels that Obama's a black nationalist. How do you feel about that?
Obama is not a black nationalist by any stretch of the imagination. Black nationalism began with Malcolm X. He's the one who coined the phrase. You talked about the Muslims and so forth, the black Muslims. It was the black Muslims that killed Malcolm X and his philosophy. Obama is a multicultural. If you've seen his program in dealing with, of course, and things like this marginalizes the African American and does not help him at all. His civil rights Shirley Sherrod pointed out that one of her faults was that when she went into the situation that she was in, of course she worked for the Agriculture Department, that she thought it was whites that was a problem, because of course her father had been murdered by a white farmer. But she turned around and said, I realized that what I was doing was wrong, and she said that she was at fault. And she corrected her own situation. Well, Obama and his people didn't even wait to find out the truth about what she was talking about. They went ahead and fired the woman and didn't give her any regard. No black nationalist would do such a thing like that. This man has no regard for his own race, period.
Roger, would you like to respond to that?
Well, black nationalism didn't start with Malcolm X. It's been around for a couple hundred years, and the mass movement started with Marcus Garvey back in the late 1920s.
Incorrect.
And you can look that up in dozens of books that have been published. You know, it didn't start with Malcolm X. And there's certain characteristics of black nationalism, and if you look at the books on black liberation theology, the racial concept is the same, just the name of it, black liberation theology. That's indicating that it's an identity religion. It's not about your spiritual salvation. It's about you being black. And black nationalism, if you read the autobiography of Malcolm X, or you read some of the books by Elijah Muhammad, they believe that the white race is the ultimate evil of the world, and the black man is a chosen race, or actually God, and they worship their leaders as gods. And if you look at black liberation theology, then you can see the same characteristics. It's a little more subtly written. It's basically, I mean, even the author says that it's based on the theology of Malcolm X and Martin Luther King, but it's more the theology of Malcolm X than it is traditional Christianity.
Yeah, Roger, I also have another guest on. I think she may want to have a word on this. Barbara from Harlem. Barbara, good evening.
Good evening. Thank you so much for having me to be a part of this.
Hi, Barbara.
Hi, how are you?
Pretty good.
Yeah,
Good,
Barbara,
good.
Would you like to respond to what's been said so far by Roger and Leroy?
Well, Roger mentioned that it was started by, as far as I could find, it was started by Marcus Garvey in the 1920s.
Right.
And, you know, that was, well, that was that. And Malcolm X was part of that movement also.
That's right, too, yeah.
He was heavily into that. Now, and that black liberation theology, that's what was taught at the church that Obama attended. Right. Black liberation theology is not Christianity.
Right.
Not by any stretch of the imagination.
Exactly.
It was started in the 1960s. One of the ones who started was James Cone.
Right.
And he said that black people could not worship a God that would allow them to be enslaved.
Yeah,
right.
Barbara, right. Can you hold that thought? We're coming up on
yes, I
break.
can.
We're coming up on break, and after the break, we're going to bring another guest on, and we're going to really get into this and get to the bottom of it. Welcome back to America Betrayed. We have a conversation tonight talking about black nationalism. And if you'd like to go to our website, check our website, www.abradioshow.net. You'll see a bio on our guest tonight. And call in if you like. There's a toll-free number on the other website, the American Voice Radio. Check that out. And we were talking earlier, there was some controversy about who came up with, this black nationalism. I came up with the Noy, and also Garvey was deported for mail fraud due to complaints. He worked with the KKK. And different sects have Christian, Jewish, and Muslim facades. Anybody want to comment on that? And by the way, we're bringing in Chanel Temple. She's been on before. I think she's quite a bright lady. She finally saw the light and said, hey, there's something wrong with these black leaders. They're not out for the black people. She invited them to come to her event in Southern California, and not one of them showed up. So I guess she says, that's that. Chanel, have you been listening to the show, the comments that have been made about the black nationalism?
Yes, I have. I've been listening.
Okay, do you have any comments on what's been said so far?
Yeah, a couple of things. You just made a statement about Marcus Garvey working with the KKK. Now, if you're a black nationalist, why would you be working with the KKK? He was labeled a black nationalist, but I have research, and I'm on the internet now, under, is it Waikiki Encyclopedia, where he said he had no hard feelings against whites.
Right.
So he wasn't, I kind of agree with Leroy. First of all, he wasn't from this country. Malcolm X was from this country.
Yeah.
So when Leroy said that Malcolm X started black nationalism, he's referring to who started it here in America.
Oh, no.
Again, hear me out. Again, Marcus Garvey, he promoted black liberty. He promoted blacks improving themselves and trying to move them back to Africa, but he worked with everyone. He even received $10 million from different donors, and trust me, they were not all black. So for him to be considered a black nationalist for America, or the start of that movement, I kind of disagree. I agree with Leroy.
Roger, you want to comment on that?
He started the mass movement. I mean, that's just a matter of record. There's all kinds of books that have written on that, academic text. And the idea goes back a couple hundred years, and I want to expand on something that Barbara said that's very important. They trace their roots back to the slave rebellions in the Caribbean and Nate Turner in Virginia. And they thought that Christianity was being taught with their promise of a spiritual reward after they die to keep them in slavery. The black nationalists, those oriented that way, did. And for that reason, they don't believe in a spiritual heaven. And in Black Liberation Theology, James H. Cone says if there is one, he doesn't talk about a spiritual heaven. And there are other things like that tie this doctrine to Black nationalism.
Right.
John, may I comment, please?
Okay, can I just say something?
Yes, go ahead.
This is Barbara. How are you?
Good, go ahead,
I'm
Barbara.
looking on the internet also, and the historical roots, according to the internet, of Black nationalism can be traced back to the 19th century. There was a guy named Martin Delany. Now, 20th century Black nationalism was greatly influenced by Marcus Garvey. That was 20th century. But also the Nation of Islam and the Black Power movement of the 1960s embraced it also.
John, wait a minute. Can I speak, please?
Yeah, go ahead.
One of the things I think you're confused on, and by the way, thank you for allowing me on your program, is I think you guys are confused on the difference between Black nationalism and Pan-Africanism. She mentioned Martin Delany. Martin Delany was about the Back to Africa movement. Marcus Garvey was about the Back to Africa movement. Now, I should tell you something about my personal background. My family is from Jamaica. They came to the United States in 1928, after the Marcus Garvey had been locked up for, physical malfeasance. It is true that there is a connection between Garvey and the Ku Klux Klan. The Ku Klux Klan gave Garvey money because Garvey was talking about African Americans and African people of African descent from the other parts of the Americas leaving the United States and going back to Africa, particularly Liberia, which was the country he was talking about. The Ku Klux Klan said, we want you people out of the country anyway. Here, let us help you. That was his only connection with them. He did not work with them. I want to make that point very, very clear.
Can I say one thing?
Go ahead.
Malcolm X met with the American Nazi Party, and so did Elijah Muhammad in the 60s. He met with the American Nazi Party. And let's see, what's his name? The Nazi that was here in San Diego. The Black Panthers, the new Black Panther Party has met with the Nazis. It's been ongoing for 7 or 8. They see what they have in common is they both want to destroy the system, and they both want to achieve racial separation.
Absolutely. And I would like to make one statement. In 1963, Malcolm X gave a speech called Message to the Grassroots. And in that speech, he states, if you are afraid of Black nationalism, you're afraid of revolution. And if you love revolution, you love Black nationalism. So the Nation of Islam embraces Black nationalism. And also, Black Liberation Theology.
It's revolutionary.
All of this, in my opinion, is anti-American.
It is.
What James Cone and the others came out in the 60s, the Black Liberation Theology, I had to do a little studying of that. And I just want to read you this. To be black is to be committed to destroying everything this country loves and adores.
Right.
And
that's the doctrine of his church that he was in for 20 years.
Absolutely.
And we have a right to believe that he's an adherent of that doctrine.
Absolutely. Absolutely, because Black Liberation Theology is not Christianity.
It's not.
Clearly
it's not.
That American white Christianity is not for black people, and they cannot accept a God that would allow them to be enslaved.
Yeah, the idea is destroy the white race, destroy America, and destroy the traditional Christian church, which they see as the white church. And that's in Obama, the book on the doctrine of Obama's church. And we have every right to believe, he was never questioned on it, we have every right to believe he believes in that revolutionary, seditious crap.
Yes.
Again, I am loath to have to defend Obama. Okay.
You're in a bad position, I'll tell you that.
I am loath to have to defend this man, but I've never heard such nonsense in my life.
It's not nonsense. Read the book.
My viewpoint, this man has done absolutely nothing And the statistical evidence proves this. I mean, there were 16,000 people at the Crenshaw Christian Center looking for jobs. I mean, African Americans. This man has done absolutely nothing.
That's right.
And I mean absolutely nothing to help the African American community. If he's a black liberationist, then I'm King Kong.
That's not what defines it. It's the doctrine that defines it.
It may be the doctrine that defines it, but actions speak louder than words.
If he was in the KKK for 20 years, do you think he'd be a Klansman?
John, you're not pointing out that this man sold his own pastor out and turned his back on his pastor. So therefore, he's denouncing anything that pastor had to say. He said, I have nothing to do with the guy.
Yeah, it wasn't just my right, though.
He has promoted no program to help his own people. The first thing a black nationalist does is support his own people.
First thing he's got to do is destroy America.
There's nothing but nationalist movement.
And when we look around America, how many businesses as a nation Islam created?
All right. Hold on, one at a time. I'm going to change direction here. What about Fard Muhammad says that he's going to return in a giant UFO to destroy the white race?
Yeah. Well, that's the Independence Day. The movie was based on that, and he's supposed to come back and destroy the white race in a giant spaceship like a mile across, and it's supposed to have 3,000 smaller. If you saw Independence Day, it's just like that. Only the white race survives in Independence Day. It doesn't survive in the end time scenario of the Nation of Islam. So that's not Islam either. Islam is just a facade. And there's a book, Elijah Muhammad, his writings are considered scripture by the NOI, and he describes that at least in more than one book that he wrote. The main one is The Mother Plane, I think is the title of it.
Right.
John Vincent, you've been pretty quiet. Do you want to put in your time here?
I'll just make one comment. I think Obama is much more of a red man than a black man. I mean, I'm talking about Marxist ideology. You know, his mentor was Frank Davis, who was a member of the U.S. Communist Party, and I think that's his great passion there, rather than his race.
Well, you can't prove that because he's never been in a communist organization, but he was in a Black Nationalist church for 20 years. That's on black and white. That's on paper.
Well, I just watched what he's done, and he seems to be a Marxist in orientation.
Lately, since Malcolm X, they started working a lot with white radicals and communists. Since Malcolm X. Elijah Muhammad didn't like communists.
Okay, now...
may I comment on this, John? Elijah Muhammad was a capitalist by any stretch of the imagination.
What?
These people, he was a capitalist. The man made money.
He didn't like communists. Elijah Muhammad didn't.
On top of which, he's been proven to be what we would call, and I happen to be a Christian, a false prophet. Okay, his organization has crumbled. They have less members than they've ever had before, and they're going absolutely nowhere. So where's the problem here?
Well, the problem is we got a president who's a black nationalist that went to a black nationalist church for 20 years that has a religious...
What they believe in is not even Islam, as you already pointed out.
This is a black man...
One time.
That's the problem.
Okay, go ahead, Barbara.
Yeah, well, that is not a Christian church, because a Christian church does not give Louis Farrakhan a Lifetime Achievement Award. And we must remember, Islam didn't come about until the 7th century. The Christian church had already been established in the 1st century. So it's a false religion. And one thing I think you said about the church, but anyway, Obama would not have spent 20 years there if he didn't agree with what was being preached from the pulpit.
So, so all you got to do is read the books and find out what he believes in.
Baptize the children. You only let someone who's very special to you and that you believe in what they're teaching to have to be present and officiate in those very special occasions.
Right.
So he believed in Jeremiah Wright. He believed in what he was teaching, and Jeremiah Wright himself was a former Muslim.
Right.
Yes.
But is he a black nationalist? Jeremiah Wright.
Yeah. In Obama's book, he says that Jeremiah Wright dabbled in black nationalism.
Hold on.
He was a black nationalist. He would be collecting, he would be helping his people. What he's doing
No, not necessarily.
Wait. Everybody else had their chance to speak. Please let me speak. If he was a black nationalist, action speaks louder than words. He would be acting that part. He would be helping black people. He would be collecting black people, and he is not. The only reason why he's around black people is to use them like the NAACP he's using, the Black Panthers. When have you ever known the Black Panthers to work with the White House? Obama is using them as a cover. People need to wake up. He is not a nationalist. He is not for blacks. He is not for his people. And
Obama won't use anyone. He doesn't even help his brother or his sisters and brothers that are in Africa. So I don't even know why black people were so delusional. Help them.
Hold. One at a time, please. One at a time.
You know, I don't see why, black people were so delusional. They thought that he was going to get in there and really help black people. He doesn't even help his own family members.
Right.
It's not that we're delusional. Regardless of what color president is, he's supposed to stand up and do his job. And putting other countries and southern states with 16 countries behind it, the first time in American history, that's not delusional. That's a fact. He's anti-American.
Everyone's delusional, not just blacks. There's a lot of whites that are delusional.
He's supposed to stand and help America, and he's not doing it. He's not.
This country. One at a time. One at a time, please, so we can understand. And everybody's talking at the same time. We can't understand what's going on. Go ahead.
True. He's done more harm to this country than he's done to help it. He was over in Australia recently, and he told the Australian children that the children over here in America don't get the support that they should when they're young and they're falling behind in math and science. That's not someone who loves his country. And he has statement after statement downplaying America. We're not perfect, but he does not love this country.
I think we all agree on that. I mean, there's some stupid white people and stupid black people. Yes. It's not all one. Like I said before, we have to unite as Americans. Absolutely. And anybody that doesn't like this country, get out. You know, if they don't like it here, get out. You know, who's keeping you here now?